The Bostonian is Matt Perrault.
This is our city.
The book is Dave Sharapan.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
Together, they are the Bostonian versus the book.
You covered! You covered 12! I covered!
Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the book.
How do you like them apples?
Bringing you the best insight on sports betting news, Matt and Dave's daily picks, and an entertaining and unfiltered dive into the sports betting industry. Here's Dave Sharapan and Matt Perrault.
And here we go.
What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into a Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon episode of the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Perrault. We are live on our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book, the same on Twitter and X. We are replayed on Sports Grid Television and Sirius XM channel 159 each and every single night or weeknight that we are here. Thank you for being a part of the show today here on Thursday, July the 17th. It's a Thursday. That means D-Bro, Derek Brown's coming on from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. We're going to go through the NFC North today. We're going to talk about prop bets, season-long plays that he likes in the prop market, things you guys can fire on right now, and games and plays and teams that we're going to get into, win totals and other fun stuff involving maybe the most interesting division in the NFL. Maybe the most competitive, but also maybe the most interesting given the storylines. I don't know if you guys are watching what's happening for the quarterback on Netflix, that show that's been out mostly on all last year, but it is interesting to watch Jared Goff and watch the Lions and watch his life in Detroit and what he means to that market now with a new head coach in Chicago and a quarterback that may or may not want to be long-term with the Bears and what they look like on offense with a Ben Johnson offense that was in Detroit. And now it's going to be in Chicago. So a lot of cool things to get into with the NFC North coming up here in about 15 minutes. We will talk, Open Championship throughout the entire show. Anything that breaks, we'll tell you about it and we'll talk about it. There is some breaking news at the top of the show that we'll get to here just before we get into the opening line. And it involves the situation with receiver Rashid Rice, who received a 5-year probationary period and 30 days in jail, which can be served during those 5 years, stemming from his role where he was driving at extreme speeds in a multi-car crash in Dallas during the 2024 offseason. Now that the judge has ruled, the NFL can come down with any disciplinary action that they want to levy against Rice. How many games is he going to miss for an offense that desperately needs him? That will be the question. He better get more than what the NFL tried to give Tom Brady for trying to destroy a cell phone. And that was 4 games, what they gave Tom Brady. It was then pled down to 2. But he better get 4 games or more for what he did, for his role in that situation where it was highly likely that people were going to get hurt given what he was doing. And there's video of what Rashid Rice did. So let's see there, but he's going to miss multiple games. He may miss 5, 6 games, depending on what the NFL wants to levy down on him. So not good there. Not good if you are a Chief fan looking at the offense and what the offense may look like coming up this year. We start the show, every show, with the opening line. All right, opening line for us today, and this might make some of you mad, and I'm okay with that because I think America needs to relax, like in a big way, when it comes to comedy. Last night, everyone who was watching TV, which wasn't many of us because, let's be honest, it's the ESPYs, and secondly, there was nothing going on last night. There was WNBA, but there was nothing else. And then the WNBA now goes into a all-star break, Major League Baseball on the all-star break, no MLS, no nothing. There's no sports. Last night, tonight, really, nothing really on the television to watch. So I get it if you weren't watching the ESPYs. But if you were, Shane Gillis's monologue has become the talk of the internet. It's everywhere. It's all over the place. Controversial monologue, bombing it, terrible. Stirs controversy, bombed as the host of the ESPYs, took aim at everyone. President Trump to Shador Sanders. And as I watched this pearl clutching going on in our country about what he said yesterday, and I read the articles about what Shane Gillis did, I was reminded of how fortunate I was young in my career to be exposed to a show called the Todd and Tyler Radio Empire in Omaha, Nebraska. Todd and Tyler have been on the air in Omaha for 30 years. They're in the Nebraska Broadcasting Hall of Fame. And they have made the careers of comedians that you know, the comedians you've heard of, who got their start trying out bits and material on the Todd and Tyler before it wasn't the Radio Empire. It was just the Todd and Tyler show. These two guys are on the radio every morning making jokes, and sometime making, they were the first ones who were making jokes that were a little bit off color. They were called in a lot of ways the Howard Stern of the Midwest. They pushed the envelope. They did things it made people uncomfortable. They said things that made people uncomfortable. They did things like a death pool where they all would pick people who would die during the 12 months calendar year. And they would put money into a pool and they would go ahead and see how many they could get right for people who would die. Like, things that made people uncomfortable. These guys started the career of Larry the Cable Guy. That's Todd and Tyler in the bottom right-hand corner with Larry. Get Her Done was the way he signed off. When Larry the Cable Guy would call in to the show, that's how he signed off. He was a Nebraska fan, a guy in Western Nebraska, rather. I'm from Mass. And he was able to do and say things that he then would take to the stage. Comedians are supposed to make you uncomfortable. I watched the entire monologue this morning for a second time, and I thought it was funny. But that's just me. Even if I didn't find it funny, the idea that Shane Gillis should be fired from Saturday Night Live, or he should never be allowed to be a host of any show ever again, is just showing how soft we have become as a country. We are absolutely in the period where nobody can deal with anything that might be considered wrong, inappropriate, or makes you think. Because that's what a great comedian will do. Comedy is hard. It's the hardest actual thing to do. People don't realize how hard it is to be a comedian. I went to the internet and I asked AI. I asked the question, how smart are comedians? I asked AI. So AI came back with this. Most comedians are above average in IQ. They carry strong verbal intelligence. They have cognitive flexibility and divergent thinking. They think a different way. They see the world a different way. Observational skills and intellectual curiosity, right? How often have you seen a comedian point out something that you go, oh, wow, I didn't think about that before, but that's really true. High tolerance for risk, which is what Shane Gillis did last night. He stood up on a stage in front of thousands of people. I guess not hundreds in that theater, but millions on TV and the entire internet, knowing he was going to get roasted for whatever joke he wanted to make. And he fired a Caitlin Clark joke that has people literally flipping out who are WNBA fans today going, fire him for that comment. You better have a high tolerance for risk. Absolutely. But emotional and social intelligence is another one. You got to know what your audience is going to react. And that was probably the biggest takeaway from last night, is that the audience, the players, the athletes, the ESPN folks, the Disney folks, they were so concerned. You heard them literally gasp at some of the jokes he was making. They were like, oh my God, he just said that? What did he say? I just wish he leaned into it more. He was almost apologizing for some of the jokes he was making. And I was like, dude, roast everybody. Take down the world. Because I sat with Todd and Tyler on their show, I was their backup sports guy in Omaha. And I got a chance to talk to them about comedy and about how comedic timing works and how you have to have this. And I don't have it, okay? I'm not a comedian by any means, but watching it and understanding it and then going and seeing, because the Funny Bone in Omaha, Nebraska is an unbelievable place. And it's been highlighted recently for a bunch of reasons, but it's been around for a long time. And so many comics have come through and have talked about the intelligence of the audience because of Todd and Tyler, because they have not grooming's the wrong word, but they're used to it. They've heard these types of jokes in the market before. So there's not this like overreaction and this flipping out over a joke that might be close to the edge, because comedians that I like tend to live right on that edge. I'm 48. I grew up with George Carlin. Okay. I grew up loving that guy and what he said and the 7 deadly, deadly words, whatever it came up with. I forget I think it's dirty words, right? But like that was always part of what I would go back to as a host and be like, how do you get right to the edge, but don't go over it? And the best comedians are able to do that. And I wanted more of Gillis last night. I thought it was a brilliant pick to have him be there to host. I thought it was brilliant that he ripped on everyone. It wasn't like he did a left wing or a right wing sketch. He hammered everybody. There was nobody he didn't really go after last night. And I thought it was awesome. He hit on Joe Rogan. He hit on Adam Silver. He hit on everyone. I mean, Shedeur Sanders, Caitlin Clark. I mean, who didn't he rip on yesterday? I mean, he even made Epstein jokes. He made it about, the Epstein file disappearing. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And this is what we need more of, not less. We need more of people who are willing to have the balls to stand up there and rip on everyone for comedy. For comedy. This is about laughter. This is about being like, just relax. It's a joke. What's the worst thing that happened? It's just a joke. So if you don't like it, we move on, right? If you don't like it, you just move on. But no, in America, we can't do that. We got to fire off 1,000 headlines. We got to have the internet fold like this. Controversy, bombing, fire him, terrible. Like this is America today. Like, what are we doing? Why do we need the internet to melt down over a guy standing up there and saying jokes? It's just a joke. I love when comedians are that like they get ripped on or like they get booed and people are like, it's a joke, relax. Because that's all that it is. It's just a joke. I remember Todd and Tyler saying that all the time in Omaha, whenever somebody would call in and be really mad about like, they'd make a joke about the Catholic Church, or they'd make a joke about something happening, in the market that was somewhat controversial, either with like, there was a gay rights thing going on in Omaha, and there was a lot of issue that they would touch on. They made a lot of butthole jokes, and people really get all angry about that. Like, oh no, can't talk about that part of the body. And like, they would just go, it's a joke. At the end of the day, it's a joke. What are we so upset about? Why are we so mad? Just laugh. Just laugh. I mean, a lot of people thought he crushed it. A lot of people thought he was awful. That's great. That's a great performance. In my mind, that's a great performance. Like, I don't need safe in comedy. And if you watch Netflix specials, how many guys are on Netflix right now with Netflix specials that are completely boring? Like, there are some guys I have watched and been like, these guys are really boring. Like, all their jokes are about their wives and like walking the dog and how dumb guys are. Like, that's the brand of humor right now that's quote unquote successful. Like, let's make fun of guys and how stupid we are. Like, we're just a bunch of dumb husbands who can't do anything. That's funny. Like in America, like that's funny today. I don't know why. I don't know why that's funny, but it is funny. I want Shane Gillis. Give me that. You know what? You're right, Ian. Matt and Trey from South Park, beautiful. Rip them all. Rip them all. Bill Burr is awesome. You're absolutely right. My neck of the woods. I love Bill Burr. Rip them all. Make fun of everyone. Not left wing, not right wing. Make fun of, and that's what Gillis did last night. He ripped everyone. And that's why people are so upset. He touched the golden goose. He made fun of Caitlin Clark. Oh my God, he made fun of Caitlin Clark. Who cares? Like, get over it. Move on. People, I'm serious. I've seen this a bunch of times on the internet. I saw a couple of polls where people are like, on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you give Shane Gillis's performance at the ESPYs last night? Like -11. People were writing like -11, -25. He wasn't funny at all. He was awful. He was horrible. I was like, really? Like, you didn't find anything funny? Like, nothing that he said didn't make you laugh? Because I was rolling the entire time. I was rolling. I thought it was even funnier that the audience was so uncomfortable by what he was saying. That was even better. Like, I love the bit. Like, the whole stand-up routine was tremendous. But the pearl clutching of the audience, because certain athletes wanted to laugh, but they weren't so sure that they could do that, because what it would look like to the brands they represent if they're laughing at a certain joke that might offend a certain part of the population. Like, everybody was doing the math in their head, like they're in the instantaneous career math of like, ooh, okay, can I laugh about the Epstein joke? Is that okay? That was really funny, but can I do that? Can I laugh about that? I was like, this is great. I mean, it was so well done. So well done. I mean, he literally put a WNBA All-Star on the screen that was not a WNBA All-Star, and he made fun of everybody and said, oh, I knew you guys wouldn't know who a WNBA All-Star is. Like, that was that bit was that might have been the favorite part of the whole monologue, is when he put his friend's wife on screen and he was like, 4-time WNBA All-Star. And everyone was like, yay. And he was like, I knew you guys didn't know who an All-Star was. He put her on screen. Like, he roasted the people who were there. I mean, for everybody upset today, seriously grow up. Like, as a country, stop it. Like, absolutely stop it. Because thank God this guy and these guys, Larry the Cable Guy and Todd and Tyler, were coming up in the late 90s, early 2000s. Because I'm not sure they would have had the same audience that they have today. Larry created a white guy redneck role. And by the way, Larry's really freaking smart. Okay. He is really, when you talk to that dude, he is really smart. I'm not so sure Larry the Cable Guy, in today's culture, in today's pearl clutching world, I'm not sure that guy would be allowed to say what he said on stage for all those years in building up the material that he brought up. Howard Stern couldn't exist today. No way. Howard Stern, they picketed him in the 90s. Could you imagine what they would do to Howard Stern now? Could you imagine the line of protest, the number of people that would be outside the studios in New York for Howard Stern if he did what he did at WABC and WNBC? It would be like, literal pitchforks and torches for Howard Stern. Can we go back to that time, please? Like, can we go back to a time when we just laughed, that we were all able to take a joke? It's just funny. We go there to be entertained. We weren't just perpetually offended about everything. Bravo to ESPN. Bravo to Disney. Give him Disney the credit here for doing this and putting him up, because they approved the jokes. Shane literally said it during the monologue. He was like, well, Disney approved this, so we're all good. Absolutely great. I mean, just great. More of that, please. Give me more of the Johnny Carsons. Yes, I agree, CBW. Johnny Carson wouldn't have lasted either. A lot of comedy. Comedy's like, literally, comedy is under attack. Opie and Anthony, even though I don't really like those guys, I have my own issue with Opie and Anthony, but Whip It Out Wednesday was probably that might have been the most brilliant thing. I remember driving down the highway in like WOW on the back of a truck, and you're like, people really do this. Yes, they really did this. They really did Whip It Out Wednesday, and it really went national, and it really worked. They started in Worcester, Massachusetts. I grew up in Andover. I went to college at UMass. In the middle is Worcester, where they started at WAAF in Boston, and then went and became huge. So, I mean, thumbs up. Give the flowers to our friends at ESPN for that. And Shane Gillis, keep doing your thing, boy. Keep doing it, man. That was tremendous last night. All right, it's time to talk NFC North. Every week, we're going to bring on our guy, D-Bro, from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, to help us break down a different division here in the NFL. What, my friend? How are you? Good to see you.
Dude, I'm in the green room listening to everything you're talking about, Gillis, and like, I don't know if you were looking down at all. Like, I am like absolutely like, I love the entire monologue before we get into props in the NFC North. I love the entire monologue. I love Shane Gillis's brand of comedy, where he comes off and he plays this bro character, and he points out things that either he thinks are wrong, like the WNBA joke when he pointed out like the guy's wife. Like, basically he's saying to everybody, you don't watch the WNBA enough. Like, you should be watching the WNBA. That's on you. You know what I mean?
They act like
sometimes
they act like it, though. Sometimes they act like they're watching. I think that was pointing out the fact that people act like they watch the W and they actually don't.
Yeah, man.
That's what I loved. I was like,
but going back to it, it's like comedy has always pushed the boundaries, and the things that we find funniest, there's some part of real life, and there's something real about when the funniest freaking jokes that you will hear in your lifetime, it's because there's an element of truth that resonates with people on some level. So, like, dude, I'm all for it. Like, and some of those jokes, yeah, like, they make you feel some kind of way. Like, you're kind of like, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like, I'm wearing somebody else's clothes right now that don't quite fit.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, dude, like, he's a genius. He's a comedic genius. I can't agree with your entire monologue anymore. Possibly.
I just hope that we get back to a place where we can just watch it, observe, laugh, and move on, and not have it be this resonating thing where people want punishment of some sort. They want firing of some sort. They want to, that's where the cancel culture thing came from, where you want to be canceling people. And there's a whole different conversation somewhere else with that. But it is frustrating to watch the reactions to that instead of just, okay, he was funny or he wasn't. There's like, we want repercussion for what you said.
Oh, God.
I hate that.
It's comedy, man. Like, there's so like you were talking about Carlin, but dude, like old Eddie Murphy, like other comedians back in the day, like Richard Pryor. Like, I know like a lot of people are too old now to like remember Richard Pryor, but like comedic geniuses that were pushing the envelope and honestly like saying a lot of things that like, yeah, fine. You're tiptoeing, you're walking the tightrope of like, okay, what's real and what's messed up, but that's comedy. That's always been comedy.
Right. And that's where, to me, I remember growing up and remembering Howard Stern and watching Howard Stern and going, this guy is pushing the envelope in a different, I was a talk show host as a sports talk show guy. So I wasn't talking the same things, but I was doing morning radio in Huntsville, Alabama. And I just remember watching when Private Parts came out, I remember watching it going like my path. Howard went to tiny little podunk stations. I went to tiny little podunk stations trying to go up and build my own career. And then you see when you get there, you have to have the courage to say things publicly that are going to make people either A, think or be offended. And for whatever reason, we've decided we're going to throw a big old sheet over that and say, nope, that's not okay. We don't want that anymore. And then last night happens and it reminded me like, there it is. That's the line that we got to keep on pushing back on and say, it's just comedy, man. It's just funny. Just get over it.
Dude, his part whenever he was like leaned into his Eagles fandom was absolute. He's sitting next to Sirianni. You can tell Sirianni's like, oh crap, I don't know what the heck you're gonna say right now. Like it was glorious because it was just like this unnerving, like, I mean, dude, he's just dropping the mic left and right. Like, what is he going to do next? And you're like, you don't know what he's going to do next. But that's one of the great things about comedy, man.
Yeah,
like
it was great. If you haven't watched it, definitely go. It's everywhere. It's everywhere for Shane Gillis's monologue last night on ABC.
Oh, and it's going to keep going on social media. If you haven't seen all the parts and pieces, trust me, you'll be able to find it today, tomorrow. It'll be out there. So people can find it. So
I mean, you and I grew up in the era where Howard Stern landed on the MTV Movie Awards as Fart Man and got him blew up the lectern there in the middle of it. So like this is stuff that we've seen. We grew up with this stuff. For the younger audience, he touched the sacred cow.
Even softer versions of this, like what Weird Al was doing when he came up, like softer versions of that aren't like towing the line, but there are some things like if you want to be offended, you can be offended about. But like it just comes back to it's all comedy, man. Like it ain't that deep.
Nope,
it really is. It's not that deep.
It's not that big of a deal. I would agree. All right, let's get to the NFC North here, and we're going to go through each division every Thursday when you're joining us here on BvB. So we did the East last week. We're doing the North this week. My general thought on this entire division as a whole is this could be the most difficult division in football, but it also could be a little bit overrated. The Lions could take a gigantic step backwards by losing both of their assistant coaches, their heads, who are now head coaches in the NFL in this division. Ben Johnson may not work as a head coach going to Chicago. That may not go the way they want it to go. Green Bay is in a very interesting position here where they're either going to join the elites or they could take a big step backwards. And then the Vikings are going to start a quarterback that I like JJ McCarthy, but I'm not sure what JJ is going to look like coming up. What's your take on the North going into the year?
It's going to be a wonderful bloodbath of uncertainty. I'm with you on all of that. But I think that that's going to allow us in some of these betting markets now, on the props and stuff like that we're going to talk about today. I was really slim on because a lot of these teams like Chicago, their passing attack and stuff, it's kind of all up in the air. So dividing up Green Bay passing attack, what their offense looks like. So betting season-long props for a lot of these different guys, it's not as great. But as we're going through some of the teams, you want to take futures on the Vikings at plus money to win the North. Sure. They won 14 freaking games last year. You want to toss some haymakers at JJ McCarthy for MVP because it's 1 to 10,000. But the path for that, I know people are going to say that I'm crazy by saying that, but we've seen rookies, he is basically a rookie, take the league by storm. This is a 14-win team last year, and you got to win games to be in the MVP conversation. You have to. So, if they go out and they win 12 to 14 games, wow, is he in the conversation? It's possible, but that's where you take some of the uncertainty and you say, okay, some long shot bets, if certain things hit, let's go. And some of that, the market is picking up with all the Bears steam, but some of it, it's not.
What was your take on Caleb this offseason when the news came out that he tried to avoid going to Chicago and now he's got another head coach? Normally when young quarterbacks are changing offensive coordinators in systems, after a year or two, that's not normally a good thing. That's normally a whole new language and a whole new process they have to go through. So what's your outlook on Caleb going into this year?
I am much more pessimistic than everybody else than consensus. And this is, I've kind of been branded as a notable Caleb hater. I'm not a hater. I just like to, I just speak what my truth about how I view his game.
Yeah.
I got flamed on social media for having him as the QB3 of that prospect class. And people hated that take because he was the consensus QB1. And then he goes out and he has a terrible rookie season. And everybody's but you don't see people coming back to my timeline to be oh, you know what? That was actually kind of right. But Caleb on a per drop back basis was a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL, no matter how you slice it. And so looking at that, he's got to make ginormous leaps on a per dropback basis and play different, just play within the offense to be a league average quarterback, much less even is the heights that people keep putting on him. I don't want to put those kind of expectations on Caleb Williams. He's got a lot of things that he has to clean up. And some of the quotes have been great coming out. Dude, I understand everybody wants to bag on Shane Waldron. I'm not going to tell you that I think Shane Waldron's one of the best coordinators to ever grace the NFL. But when you're talking about, Shane Waldron never sat down to watch film with me. Dude, did you, at this stage, you're supposed to be a professional and you're getting paid to be a professional NFL player. Do you need somebody to hold your hand to sit down and watch freaking tape?
Yeah.
Watch quarterback. You think anybody's sitting at Kirk Cousins' house and watching tape with him, holding his hand? Tom Brady of the past, all the quarterbacks?
Right.
Don't use that as an excuse to not watch film. You can watch film, but don't blame it on bag on the OC that got fired and is not there as your excuse why you didn't watch film. Dude, either you watch film or you don't, but just own it and be real about it. So, I'm much lower than Caleb and the Ben Johnson's team than a lot of different people because I'm curious at how all of this works. DJ Moore was not happy last year. Caleb did not play good. Colston Loveland still has been recovering from an injury and hasn't even graced the practice field yet. DeAndre Swift is grossly overrated. He's one of the most inefficient running backs in the NFL on a per-touch basis. So a lot of parts and pieces and a lot of Ben Johnson's team covering up, which honestly is still a roster with a decent amount of questions for Chicago.
We'll get to your props for the season here in a second, but one more question on the division. Is Kevin O'Connell underrated as a head coach, given what he's done with the quarterback carousel that he's had? You mentioned the 14 wins with Sam Darnold last year, but he also won games with Josh Dobbs and other quarterbacks in his career. How do you view him? Because it feels like everyone says he's overrated. The Vikings are just a paper tiger. And when the chips are down, they're not going to be winning anything.
then they're ridiculous. Like, I don't know how you look at that. Like, I don't understand how you look at what he's done over the last few years and the carousel of quarterbacks, getting some of the best football out of Kirk Cousins. I mean, honestly, like what they did last year with Sam Darnold, an entire reclamation project who has not looked like an NFL starting quarterback at any other juncture. That's why that's another reason. Like, not only am I high on JJ McCarthy, the player, but I'm high on JJ going into in Kevin O'Connell's system. Like, I think he should be discussed in the same rarefied air as like Kyle Shanahan's and the other people that like Matt LaFleur's and people that look at like, there's some of the best offensive designers and head coaches in the NFL. That is the type of five I'm like, Kevin O'Connell should be discussed in. And he doesn't get that kind of due because he's not in a major market team. Like, if he was in New York doing the same things that he's done in Minnesota, I'll toss this back to you, Perrault. Do you think Kevin O'Connell would get a lot more respect if he was in San Francisco, if he was in Dallas, if he was in New York, if he was in some major media market place?
Yes, but I also think it's his personality. I don't think
that's fair because he's not bombastic. He's not like out there like puffing his chest out and pulling his best Nick Sirianni impression. He's not doing that either.
He fits, Midwest nice, as they call it, right? Iowa nice, Nebraska nice, Minnesota nice.
Minnesota nice, baby.
Yeah. Okay. So like, I think he fits it, right? I think he fits that mentality that the fans have as well. And I think he's done really well with certain types of quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins fit that very well, obviously. And then Sam Darnold came in and fit that as well. So I think he's had the right quarterbacks in the right systems. And I think it's just the fans' apathy when it comes to their inability to actually appreciate what the guy is doing until he wins. And then if he does win, we all look back, kind of like Nick Sirianni in a lot of ways, right? It was when Nick Sirianni is a pompous jerk. Nick Sirianni is just fighting with fans, but now he won a Super Bowl. And now he's got that on his resume, and everyone's like, Nick Sirianni is the best coach in the NFC, and like they're all throwing the flowers at him. So I think
Super Bowl shines a lot of things, Perrault. Super Bowl, here's a lot what ails you. I'm old enough to remember Nick Sirianni's first presser, and everybody was like, "Who is this dude? Who did they pull out of the IT department? Like, who's never seen like the light of day? Like, Sirianni's undergoing like, if people want to go pull that up out of the YouTube archives, like." Sirianni himself is undergoing like this transformation as a coach and a voice as well that I don't think is talked about enough, because when he first stood in front of all the reporters, everybody's like, this guy's going to deal with Philadelphia media and the Philly fans. Okay. But he's tough as nails now. You got to be to work in Philly.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get to some of the plays you like. We'll start with Chicago and DJ Moore. You talked about it already, about what he did last year and how he was unhappy. Under 6.5 touchdowns for DJ Moore. You don't think he's going to have a big year in this new offense?
I think there's a lot of ways where this can go sideways. I mean, DJ Moore only had 6 touchdowns last year, and yet he was 9th in red zone targets. So, like, the volume and the usage wasn't a problem, but this all goes back to Caleb Williams, where DJ Moore is at in his career. He's never been a prolific touchdown scorer in his career. Like, if you look at his 7-year career, he's only hit the over for this mark twice. So, and I know there's a lot of context to that with quarterback play and stuff, but you still have Luther Burden. You got Colston Loveland. Cole Kmet's going to play a factor still in the red zone, even if he's not a full-time player. What do they get out of Rome Odunze? Like, there are other parts and pieces in this offense where maybe DJ Moore is not top 10 in red zone targets next year. And he hasn't been a prolific touchdown scorer. So there's a lot of outs and ins. And I'll even throw in like the boomerang, like out of left field type of thing. DJ Moore was not happy in Chicago last year. What if he gets traded midseason?
Ooh. Is that dangerous for the prop if he goes to an offense? He could be more prolific.
It could be, but then you also have to deal with all the parts and pieces of acclimating to a new system, getting on page with a new quarterback that you haven't spent any time with. And that is like a 1 percentile at like very slim chances that happens. But I don't think we can fully rule it out considering what we saw out of Chicago last year. But this all goes back and boils down to Caleb's got to take another step, and DJ Moore now has more and younger weapons to deal with than he did last year.
The Detroit Lions, Sam Laporta, over 650 receiving yards. I know in our audience, in our chat, this is going to be very popular. Laporta has been a fan favorite here. You think he has a big year catching the football?
I mean, dude, I think he just has, even if he has the type of year that he had last year, like he was injured for much of last season, almost all of the season, and he still had 726 receiving yards. So like this prop is just, I think this line is bad, Perrault. Straight up. I think this line is terrible. Like if you look at weeks 1 through 10, when he was playing woefully injured and somehow just like willing himself on the field, he was still almost on a 700-yard pace. He was on 691 receiving yard pace last year. That's when he was hurt. So he hits the over in that market. So, but then like the back half of the season, weeks 12 through 18, when he was healthier, he was on an 874 receiving yard pace, which is closer to what we saw in his rookie season. So there's a lot of ways to dice this up, but I think better health for Laporta, he hits this as long as he's on the field.
And also obviously he's a favorite target of Goff.
He's a beast.
So
he's one of the best tight ends in the freaking NFL. Dude.
Yeah. So like you have him in their pass happy offense. Obviously they want to put up big numbers. And frankly, I think there's going to be some, the Lion fan is questioning, okay, we lost our the mastermind of our offense. I think there's going to be some pressure there on that offense to deliver in Detroit in the wake of losing both coordinators. And I think that's where I do think Laporta becomes a nice safety blanket for an offense that might need a little bit of time to get used to it. Laporta may be over the middle, dink and dunk and let him go and make plays. So this could be, 650 is not a lot.
That is not a lot, dude.
Not a lot.
I think it's a terrible line. Like this line should be flirting with 700. This is off. This is a bad line.
Green Bay, Matthew Golden. They finally took a first-round wide receiver. Everybody freaked out in Green Bay. They drafted him. The kid came out and was talking all sorts of smack. I liked Matthew Golden in college. Highly productive wide receiver. Under, though, 725.5 receiving yards. You don't think he has that big of a year, huh?
I don't, because I think this is more of a LaFleur thing than a Golden thing, in the sense that I think that this is going to, what caps his upside is not so much Golden's talent. And I was lower on him as a prospect than maybe consensus was. You didn't really see him take off last year until Bond was out of the picture or he was hurt. So, I think that has to get factored into the equation, but because of the 40 time that he ran to the combine, that got buried in the narrative. That got buried in the conversation of how his season kind of played out. But for Golden, to me, this boils down to a few different things. This is LaFleur's love and infatuation with the wide receiver committee room. None of those, like literally the only two players on that team last year, Perrault, that had over a 70%, and that is a low mark for starters, over a 70% route per dropback rate. It was only freaking Tucker Kraft and Romeo Dobbs. Right. So like even Jaden Reed, who has been their most efficient player and has led them in receiving yards over the last 2 years, and he's the only guy in that entire freaking offense over the last 2 years, Jaden Reed, that has cleared this receiving yardage mark that they're giving Golden right now. Jaden Reed's the only guy that's cleared that. And so, like, if he's not running routes on 80, 90% of dropbacks, if this is more of like, because they not only added Golden, they added Savion Williams, who's going to play. And we haven't heard a lot about him because when camp opens, people are going to talk about Savion because the dude is a freak. He's just a mismatch freak. He's huge. He's fast. He's ridiculous. But looking at this overall, it's the committee approach for the wide receivers. It's also that we're all projecting, Green Bay is going to pass more this year. They will, because they were one of the most run-heavy teams in the entire freaking NFL. But the question is, how much more? So if the passing rate doesn't go to like top 10, top 12, if it's just league average, hell, maybe it's below league average, they're not top 5 in rushing rate, and we see a wide receiver room by committee, Golden can have a productive season, but still not the over here.
Right. You guys have some questions in the chats that we'll throw at Debro here before we're done, so we'll save some time here. But one more with the Minnesota Vikings. We talked about JJ there for a second. You're in here, over 3,650.5 passing yards for JJ McCarthy. Why are we seeing a highly productive offense run by JJ?
It's the KOC effect. Plus, JJ was a really good prospect. I know people hate to hear this, especially Ohio State fans. They're going to turn this off. I understand it. You hate the guy because he went to Michigan.
Yep.
And they talk about, it was a run first off on a per drop back basis. And if you watch the freaking film, JJ is really, really good. This year is going to be a massive coming out party for him. And if you look at this system overall, Sam Darnold, yes, that Sam Darnold had over 4,300 passing yards last year. You go back to the year previous when it was Kirk Cousins, Nick Mullins, Joshua Dobbs, and freaking Jaron Hall. They had 4,359 passing yards as a combined unit. JJ is going to sail over this number. He's throwing for over 4,000 yards this year. Minnesota last year with freaking Sam Darnold was 8th in neutral passing rate and 3rd in pass rate over expectation, which takes into account of like game scripts, game environment, and how pass happy you are versus versus the usual. So KOC is going to throw the ball, baby. And JJ is going to like easily eclipse this number. Again, what I think is honestly a terrible line by the books.
All right, couple questions for you on this. Cole Clement, big year, over under on yards or touchdowns. Ish likes him a lot as a tight end. Do you?
He's gonna have his routes cut. It's just I feel like this is the best way that I can sum this up for people is look to Buffalo. Look at the Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox kind of situation where Loveland's probably your pass down guy, probably running routes on 60, 65, maybe 70% of dropbacks. Komet is going to factor in there. It just comes down to how much 12 personnel does Ben Johnson want to run in those condensed packages, which really isn't a great thing for Caleb. But we could see a decent amount of it. I would be more leaning towards the unders on Cole Komet. Depending. Now, I haven't looked at Cole Komet lines, so they could drop them in the chat if they have them up since they're looking at them, obviously. Yep. But like for me, I would more lean towards the unders. But you know, this is one of those things. If you were going to bet that at all, you might want to wait until camp kind of opens, because I don't know if Loveland is going to be a full go at the beginning of camp. So if we see the books like kind of like nudge Komet's numbers up a little bit, if there's any worries about Loveland, that might be the spot where you hit the unders.
And then finally, Jimmy Football is asking about a fantasy trade. Do you think Higgins for Laporta, trading away Higgins for Laporta?
I wouldn't do it. I think Higgins is probably a top 12 wide receiver if he could stay healthy. The soft tissue stuff is a big worry, but Laporta, while I love him and I'm saying to bet the overs are, like 650 is just a ridiculous line, man.
Right.
So for Laporta, I think that he's probably going to be somewhere in that middle tier fantasy-wise for tight end ones, but I don't think he's probably going to sniff like Amon-Ra stays healthy, J-Mo stays doing what he's doing and stuff, Gibbs does the thing. Like, I don't see Laporta having like a top 3 to top 5 ceiling where T could be a wide receiver 1 again this year for fantasy.
D-Bro, this is awesome. We're going to do the NFC South coming up next week, but if folks want to get you in between, how can they find your stuff?
Oh, dude, everything we're talking about on these shows, I'm legit betting these as I'm writing them up and making my notes on the BettingPros app. So I'm betting all of this action on BettingPros. My content can be found there and at Fantasy Pros. I've got a mountain of content. I just updated a ton with Jordan Addison news popping today, Rashee Rice news popping today. Some of the Najee Harris stuff over the last few days. So all my content's getting updated and everything's at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, my man.
Once again, Chicago, DJ Moore under 6.5 receiving yards for the Lions. Sam Laporta over 650 for receiving yards, or under 6.5 touchdowns, for DJ Moore. Matthew Golden under 725.5 receiving yards, and JJ McCarthy to go over 3650.5 passing yards this year. We'll do the NFC South coming up next week. D-Bro, thank you for the time. Looking forward to next week.
Always, my man. I love it. I love chopping it up with you, Perrault.
Good stuff, man. Business, my man. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Derek Brown joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Brook. Great to get him on the program each and every week. We're going to do a lot with him as we're talking football, which is always a ton of fun to get into here for next week. NFC South we'll get into coming up for next week. We go into what happened last night, but there wasn't much. All right. I mean, dead of dead, right? There's just nothing going on with what happened last night. There's just nothing going on in sports, period. But we did have something that came up that it was worth pointing out. Cal Raleigh, the Mariners slugger, his nickname is the Big Dumper, right? That's now everyone's laughing about this and because of his behind and whatnot. He's a catcher, right? This is too much on brand. Cal Raleigh has partnered with a porta potty company called Honey Bucket. Can somebody get Cal Raleigh a better agent? Like right now, Like somebody has to get Cal Raleigh a better agent. You cannot, I don't care what your nickname is. You're a Major League Baseball player with a chance to be the MVP. You're going to play in the playoffs. You could set records that we've never seen before by a catcher hitting home runs. And your agent is having you be the face of a porta potty company. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like somebody has to tap Cal Raleigh on the shoulder and be like, dude, like, like we're not going to have you stand. This feels like something out of a bad movie. That Cal Raleigh is actually an endorser for some porta potty company that I've never heard of before called Honey Bucket. What in the hell are we doing? I feel bad for you, man. Are times that tough? Like, are times that difficult? Like, you're a Major League Baseball player. You just won the home run derby. You're endorsing porta potties? No. Fire the agent, man. Fire the agent. Move on to something else. You got to be finding different ways to use the nickname to make money, because it ain't working to be on a porta potty, to be the face of Honey Bucket. Whatever the hell Honey Bucket is, not a good idea in my mind. All right, there's nothing to bet. Like there's nothing to bet. So I got to give you a future because we have nothing. There's no props, there's no games, there's no nothing tonight to bet. So for just the picks, we got to go to college, and we're going to talk about a bet that I like for college football. Let's look at Georgia. Let's look at Georgia to win the SEC at plus 360. Georgia, this is interesting. I've been doing my due diligence here, and I've been going through this. The Georgia Bulldogs schedule. So last year, Georgia beat Texas in the SEC championship. And Texas was 7-1. Georgia was 6-2. Georgia got there because of a tiebreaker. Can Georgia go 7-1 with this schedule? Now, just focus on the SEC schedule. Don't worry about the non-con. So the Georgia Tech game, the Austin Peay game, the Marshall game, throw it out. Doesn't matter. At Tennessee, home for Alabama, home for Kentucky, at Auburn, home for Ole Miss, cocktail party against Florida, at Mississippi State, home for Texas. Throw the Charlotte game out. Doesn't matter. Can they win 6 games? I think that's an automatic. With Gunnar Stockton in this offense and the talent they've got on defense, like they always do for Georgia, they're winning 6 games. The question is, do they lose 2 games? They might, but they also might not. They should beat Tennessee. The Bama game is going to be really hard, but they've won 31 consecutive home games between the hedges. Like, you don't go to Georgia and win. Georgia is impossible to win, and I've been there. It is a hard place to go down there and play. It is loud. It is hostile. It is not easy. Now, there are certain games on the schedule that are always really hard for Georgia, namely the Auburn game. Going to play on the Plains, that's the South's oldest rivalry. That's a really hard road game. At Tennessee is a really hard road game. Alabama at home. Florida on a neutral, really hard. And then Texas at home. I mean, they may play Texas on the 15th of November and then play them again in the first weekend of December. There's a good shot that they play Texas 2 times in the state of Georgia. 1 time between the hedges and the other time in Atlanta for a rematch of last year. But let's say that happens at plus 360. Do you think that's the price we're going to get for Georgia to win the SEC championship game? If it's Texas and Georgia, Georgia's probably favored, or it's a pick 'em as long as both teams are healthy. And yeah, I know it's Arch Manning, and I know that this starts the whole thing with Texas, and if they win at Ohio State, they're going to be the number 1 team, and everyone's going to be talking about them, and everyone's going to be watching them as they go, right? It's going to be Texas, Texas, Texas. But I think Georgia to win the SEC at plus 360, I think you're getting really, really good value because of all the love. There you go, Vinny, plus 375 at Caesars, even better. Okay, I got 360 last night. You get 375. Okay, you get plus 375 on that. I think that's a really good move and a good play. I know it's a future. Folks don't like having futures tied up for that long, but I think that's a really good option. You don't normally see Georgia at plus 360 to win the SEC. So I like Georgia. plus 360 to win the SEC. There is no prop to bet today. So there is no prop bet of the day because there's no sports to bet. So we can't do the prop bet of the day. What we can do is the Circa Sports Pro Football Story of the Day. A reminder about the Ultimate Football Contest weekend happening August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd in Las Vegas, BvB Live. We will be there. That's the next live show for us in Vegas, out of studio, if you will, at Circa Sports. Can't wait to get there in downtown Las Vegas. And plus, you've got Circa Million and Circa Survivor to sign up for both to enter in Nevada. Great weekend to go do it. You can hire a proxy if you live outside the state to put your picks in each and every single week. Multiple ways to win. There is no rake to be taken. 5 picks against the spread each and every week for Circa Million. Circa Survivor is 20 weeks. 20 winners. And if you do, you could get your share or all of it potentially of $15 million. For more information, go to circasports.com. Our Circa Sports Pro Football Story of the Day today. Well, Von Miller has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Commanders. I like this deal. I like this for the Commanders. Go for this. I mean, again, the NFC East does not get won by the same team in back-to-back years. It's ridiculous how often that the team that was on top one year is not on top the next year. And if Jaden Daniels takes another big step forward after what he did his rookie campaign, everyone's saying, oh, it's going to be a step back. Let's see what he does with Deebo Samuel. And now they're adding veteran. This is the type of player you add when you're trying to go for it. You add a veteran, you add a leader in the clubhouse, in the locker room, and a guy that can get after the quarterback. Now, maybe not, multiple years, but for 1 year, I know coming off injury and whatnot for Von Miller, but agreed to a 1-year deal with the Commanders. I like the deal a lot. I like that deal a lot for Washington to go and get him. And yes, everyone's asking about the sophomore slump. I understand that, but hey, I'm not against Washington winning the NFC East. Everyone's on the Eagles. Everyone's saying the O-line's the problem. Everyone's saying this team's not going to live up to the hype. Are we so sure? Are we so sure? Dan Quinn and company, they may have something to be said here. This could be a big, big year for Washington. Stinger, the stinger time. Wrong. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. It is time for the Brigade Proxy Service College Football Team of the Day. If you guys are coming to Vegas and you're looking to hire a proxy, you guys can text us at 702-570-8255. Obviously, understand what's going on for Dave Sherapan. Sherapan strong behind me. Obviously, I'm in New Hampshire. I'm not in my home studio in Las Vegas. I'll be back on August the 11th. So if you're coming to Vegas, we can take care of you from August the 11th all the way to kick off that first weekend, September the 6th. So we got about a month window to get you signed up. But if you are coming in the month of July, go ahead and let us know, 702-570-8255. If you're a former customer of ours, we'll get you hooked up. You will get your picks in. Don't worry. We'll take care of you. But go ahead and text us at 702-570-8255 to make your appointment to sign up, or you can go to thebvbshow.com or email askthebvb@gmail.com. Okay, let's talk about Ohio State. Ohio State is our team of the day. Ohio State is the odds-on favorite to win the national championship. Some agree, a lot do not. Their win total is set at 10.5. It's plus 125 on the over, and I'm actually kind of stunned that this price is plus money. This is a bet you should make. Ohio State to win 11 games. Why? Look at the schedule for Ohio State. Ohio State can lose to Texas. They can win every other game after that and then play Michigan on the road, and we can hedge and bet on Michigan if we have to, or just let it run out. You know Ryan Day has to win that game this year. It's a must win. Absolute must win for Ryan Day. Won the national championship. He's got to prove he can beat Michigan. They've got tough games, but Penn State's at home. Washington on the road is a little tough. You have a new quarterback, but if they lose to Texas out of the gate, which I think they're going to, I think they win every other game. They're plus 500 to win the national championship. That's better than Texas at plus 550. Georgia 7-1. Penn State 750. Clemson 10-1. Oregon 11-1. Ohio State's the odds-on favorite to win the national championship. To get to the postseason, and their win total is 10.5, and it's juiced or to the under. We get plus money. We get plus money on Ohio State to win 11 games. I'm not saying that's a gift, but that's surprising. Okay. That's surprising to me that we're getting plus money on Ohio State to go 11-1. I mean, realistically, is anyone going to be surprised if they run the table? I mean, is that, I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense to me, to be quite honest. 11-1 is, in some people's minds, a bad season for Ohio State. If they go 11-1 and lose to Michigan, that's a bad season. I mean, Ohio State won the national championship last year, and they lost to Michigan. And some fans at Ohio State wanted Ryan Day fired. Like, you won the national championship. Who cares? You lost to Michigan. Like, so that's 11-1. That's like, can they beat Texas at home out of the gate? Yes, they can do that. And if they do, they're going to run the table to Michigan. But if they lose to Texas in week number 1, they're going to be pissed off and they're going to run the table right to Michigan, because that will wake up every kid in that locker room going like, guys, we can't lose anymore. We got to get ourselves into the postseason with a good enough seed and whatnot. So like, there's a lot that goes into that first game. There's a lot that goes in there. Don't overlook Purdue. Vinny, what are we doing? Come on now. Stop it. Sorry, we're overlooking Purdue. We're overlooking Purdue on top of the fact that look where Purdue falls in the schedule. That's not great. Okay. They play Penn State the next week on the road to Purdue. They play UCLA. There's no overlooking Purdue here. Okay. Sorry. There's not like a big game. If Purdue and Penn State were flipped, I might agree with you. But at Illinois, maybe they don't cover. At Wisconsin, maybe they don't cover, but they're winning those games. Washington on the road in week 4 with a new quarterback. Yeah, but there are so many playmakers for Ohio State. It's Ohio State. Okay. Other than the new quarterback, there's talent on talent on talent on talent. All right. It's Ohio State. The Michigan game on the road, no joke. Really tough. The Texas game at home, but the burger in between those two buns, if you will, I'm not that worried. I mean, it's Ohio State. It's Ryan Day and Ohio State. Not to be totally disrespectful to Penn State, but yeah, Penn State might be able to do it, but I can't see Penn State going to the horseshoe and winning. I'm sorry. I'm not high on Penn State. I'm on the under 10.5 for Penn State. I think everyone's saying James Franklin, this is the year for James Franklin. I don't really agree. Jim Harbaugh did it 2 years ago. Ryan Day did it last year. Everyone's saying it's James Franklin's time. It's Penn State's time. I'm not one of those people. I like his team. I don't love his team. I like his quarterback in Drew Aller. I don't love Drew Aller. He made big mistakes in the playoffs. I think he makes big mistakes in big games. He looks the part of like a Drew Bledsoe type lumbering quarterback, but the arm's not there for me. I love the running game. I love the running backs. They've got a great offensive line, but they're going to replace the tight end who was all worldly for them last year, first round draft pick. I just don't think Penn State's going to have as good of a year as people think. I think under 10.5 wins for Penn State. I think they lose at least 2 games and they might lose 3. I mean, they could lose the Oregon game at home. Penn State could lose to Oregon at home. They're losing to Ohio State. There's 2 losses. There's 10-2 and we're done. We're on in the under cashes. So under for Penn State, over for Ohio State and Georgia to win the national championship. I think right there, that puts you into a position where you feel pretty good college football wise going into the year. We'll have other college football bets, but that's where my mind is going college football wise and looking at the top. I don't know what to do with Alabama yet. I'm somewhat hesitant to say that Bama is going to be bad or not as good as people think. Jalen Milroe was great at times, but he also was really horrific at times. Bama on the road last year was an absolute train wreck. You have to think that Kalen DeBoer is going to be better in the SEC in year 2. But Tennessee, what do they look like this coming year? I think there's some other questions as the conference goes, talent-wise, where it's going to shake out. But Texas at the top, Georgia right behind them, Alabama probably at number 3 in the pecking order of the SEC. But the Big Ten, it's Ohio State. Let's see where Michigan is. And Penn State, I mean, we'll see what the polls are going to come out with, because some people think that Penn State's going to be number 1 to start the year, which I would be very surprised about. I think Penn State probably winds up 4 or 5, somewhere in that pecking order. But I'm just not as high with James Franklin as some people are. I think they go 10-2 or 9-3 this year for Penn State, but that could get them in the playoffs. I mean, that could get Penn State into the playoffs, even with 2 or 3 losses, just given how the year shakes out. If you guys are with us live, don't move. You get bonus time here in just 1 second. We got the news of the industry and favorite thing about today still to come. If you're watching on replay on Sports Grid TV or SiriusXM, thank you for being here. A Fight Song Friday will hit you tomorrow. We'll talk to Randy Moss, some horse racing talk tomorrow, and also more with college football, looking at schedules and news and notes as we head towards camps opening up around the country. For you guys who are live, you get bonus time. All right. I'm looking forward to that talk with Randy Moss tomorrow, but Debro was great today. If you missed any part of our conversation with Derek Brown from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, somebody in the chat said, wait, this isn't Fantasy Pros? No. So if you guys don't know, that's who I work for. Multiple people. I work for Betting Pros. The Daily Juice has been the podcast I've hosted for 5 years now. And yesterday was my 5-year anniversary, by the way, of that, for working for Betting Pros, which is kind of crazy. But I've worked for them for 5 years. I work for Sports Grid. I work for other entities as well. I teach at UNLV, and Dave and I do BvB. Like, that's what you have to do in today's world. You got to have multiple jobs and multiple things going on with that. Ish is asking, what's the value of parlaying a Georgia and Ohio State conference title? Ooh. Probably pretty good, because you're getting plus 360. Let me see. So I'm in New Hampshire, so I can pull up DraftKings. What is sorry. When you guys ask me questions on the fly, I've got to put things together here. Conference champions. Let's see, futures. That's college football. I need division, not national champions. I need conference winners. Okay. So conference winner, if you take Big Ten Ohio State and you take out of the SEC, you take Georgia. That is a plus. That's 12-1. That's a 12-1 ticket ish. That's pretty good. Ohio State to win the Big Ten, Georgia to win the SEC, and you get serious hedge opportunities on both. Huh. That's not bad. That's a good find. I might need to bet that. I think I might bet that. I like that a lot. Now, your money's tied up for 6 months, but Ohio State's plus 195 and Georgia at DraftKings is plus 340. So you get even better price if you find the plus 360 that's out there in the market. There's 350s, there's 360s that are out there in the market. So you can get even better prices on that. I like that a lot. Good find, Ish. I like that. That's a good bet. I would make that play for Georgia and for Ohio State to win their respective divisions. I like that a lot. Time now for the news of the industry. Oh, it's good. Ken Carsey, it's a good point. Ohio State plays Texas to start the year, so there is some correlation there. True. If Ohio State wins, true. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, news of the industry. How about this? Our friends at Circa Sports, they're shaking up some stuff in Missouri. So DraftKings and FanDuel were both seen as the two major operators that were going to go into the Show Me State to have an untethered license. But right before it closed, the deadline, right before, it was a $250,000 license to be tethered to a casino or a pro sports team, or $500,000 to be untethered. There are 2 licenses. There are now 3 bids on it. The winners will be announced on August the 15th. FanDuel and DraftKings are both heavy favorites to do it. But how about our guy, Derek Stevens, saying, hold on a second. Whoa. I'm not going to let Missouri go here. We're going to get involved. We like what's going on in Missouri. And if you stop and think about it, it's actually really brilliant because Missouri is a very unique state, right? Missouri is huge into college sports. Huge. Big Kansas fans in Missouri. Big Mizzou fans, obviously. But not just that. Arch Madness is in Missouri. So you got that every year. You've got obviously 2 football teams. 2. That's huge. Chiefs and well, no, I used to say the Rams. Sorry, they're in LA. So 1. So Chiefs. You've got 2 baseball teams, the Royals and the Cardinals. And you've got, Missouri Valley. You got a bunch of colleges, college basketball, a bunch of college football, obviously Missouri in the SEC. I think it's pretty smart. I like it. I think it's a really smart move to go in there. And it's $500,000. It's not like a gigantic difference. It's $250,000 to $500,000. Now it's a lot of money to me and you, but to an operation like Circa, not that big of a deal to say, okay, we want one of the untethered. We don't want to be stuck. We want to be loose to be able to do whatever we want. We don't want to be tied to a team. We want to sign deals with all the teams, with everyone, not just have to be tied to the Cardinals or tied to, one team in the marketplace. So watch for that. That's going to be a fun fight on August the 15th as Circa has applied for a license in Missouri. Best of luck to those guys. Obviously a big sponsor of ours here on BvB and our friends at Circa. We're hoping that they are able to pick that up because it would be great to go do shows in Missouri. I would love if you can send me back to Arch Madness. Send me back to Arch Madness. We've gone to Kentucky for the SEC basketball tournament for Circa. I would love to go to Arch Madness, to go to Missouri, to broadcast live from a place I spent 7 years doing my radio shows from the bowels of the Scott Trade Center. I've done shows all over that place for Arch Madness. I would 100% be in love with that. Like that would be awesome to go ahead and do that, to jump in with Circa. So best of luck to them as they go after that license. We'll find out here in a couple of weeks about whether or not they're going to win one of those. They're dogs, but Circa's been dogs before. And so best of luck to them. All right. Favorite thing about today is that when it's dead, when there's nothing going on in sports, we get to talk about things that are really fun. And the Shane Gillis rant, I've been waiting to do that. If you have not watched that rant, I'll post the entire thing to my Twitter account at Sports Talk Matt in about 10, 20 minutes from now. I'll post it because I was waiting when that happened last night and I saw all the pearl clutching and people freaking out. I was like, I cannot wait to get on the internet, to get on BvB and to rant about this because comedy to me, if you're a comedian, it's so funny how people look at comedians as court jesters or like as clowns. They are by far the most intelligent entertainer in the game. Like if you're in entertainment and you're a comedian, you are brilliant. Like you have to see the world through a different lens. You have to analyze situations and find humor and or a way of presenting that situation that people find funny. Like people make fun of Matt Rife all the time, right? Because he's a bro and he looks like a certain way and he's all over the internet and he really has become very popular by his crowd work. He has a stand-up act, but he also has crowd work. I am always in awe of how fast that guy can make a joke to somebody on the fly without knowing what is going to be said coming back. Like, and he tries things out and he laughs at himself and he knows when jokes bomb and he knows he tried it and it didn't work. But being able to think on your feet and say things back is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And the comedic timing that you have to make a joke land properly, I'm always in awe of it. I think it's incredible. I think it really is. And I think if you haven't seen the Shane Gillis thing that happened last night at the ESPYs, go watch it and watch it without judgment. Like just let it wash over you. Think about it before you tweet about it, right? Think about it before you respond. And without, let go of the political stuff for a second, like left wing, right wing, like let it go. Just look at it at face value. Don't look at it as a declaration of everyone's political stance on every topic. Just, was it funny? Can you laugh? Can you find some humor in it, in some way of looking at it, and maybe go, that was pretty funny, and just lighten up. the whole country, just lighten up. Okay. Everyone, we're all so fired up at everything right now. And I get it. We're in a very charged political time. And there's a lot of really shitty things happening around this country right now that absolutely fucking suck. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know where I stand on most of this stuff. But last night, I thought both sides, left wing, right wing, get over it. Like my answer to both of you guys, both sides, is get over it and have fun and just laugh. It's just a joke. It's comedy. Fight Song Friday tomorrow. If you want a fight song to be played, hit me up. DM me at Sports Talk Matt. Ask the BvB at gmail.com. Send me recommendations, suggestions, requests. I'll do my best to get it loaded up for you guys tomorrow as we're back 1 o'clock Eastern time for a Fight Song Friday edition of the Bostonian versus the Book.